Washtenaw. And
I mean,
They're
like these
the
are
piggiest of the
roaming
pigs,
bands
for
of
sure.
terrorizing thieves.
Yeah.
And they break people's hearts. They tear up families.
Yeah.
They convince people who are scared to not use the golden rule like you instructed Chad to do earlier because you're a good freaking person, Michael. We have to get rid of these people. We've got to find a way to stop the raids. We've got to find a way to stop the raids. And that means eliminating the drug task forces, right? Like reining them in. Like, what about a statewide, like, you guys win a case, and part of the case is, here's some money for all the bad things we did to you, and statewide, these guys don't get to execute raids on marijuana anymore. No more marijuana, no more resources, no more warrants, no more warrants, no more warrants, no more forfeiture for marijuana anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's.
How hard would that be?
It would be. It would be unique in the sense that
It would fix it.
It would fix it. In order to do, you need a leading law enforcement agent who would be willing to see that this is the only way it's going to end.
Where's Steve Miller?
I'm talking about Dana Nessel.
Dana Nessel.
Oh, I like Steve Miller too. But.
He's not running for turn.
Put April 15th, 2018 in your calendar.
I would tell you that,
Segue,
I would tell you that
Michael.
nobody is talking
Segue.
about this. You know what I mean? Like if there's like no one's talking.
We're
going to
talk now. We're
I know,
talking.
But I'm saying like this is
It's time.
This is reform. Like that. If you're good, because here's the thing: if you're going to have legalization, if you're going to have medical, which is what was supposed to happen, you gotta retrain the people. You got to retrain the people or teach them differently. It can't be same old, and it's all Schedule 1 contraband. And we're going to kick in doors. But none of that changed. So now, if
we
we're
had
going to
a
have
17% increase in marijuana arrest and possession rates from 2008 to 2016. After we passed the medical law, we had a 17% increase in marijuana.
Smell is still probable
crazy.
cause, and that
You know what
needs
else?
to change.
Do you know what's terrible?
How do we change
You know,
this?
you know what the most. Do you know what the most compelling
Change in
aspect of this? Not just that we've been complaining about it. He said change in probable cause. I agree with that. Here you go. Not that just we've been complaining about Charmy. Not that you've been preaching about it and exposing the stories. We've seen the abuse, the cesspool of carnage from these raids and stuff. The legislature at the tail end of 2016, in a what can only be described as like an alien encounter in their legislative writing, enacted a law that applied retroactively. This is unheard of. Retroactively in the application because of its admitted failure to implement the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act's decree to limit the number of arrests of Michigan sick people. Okay? So they recognized this in the 2016, enacted a law that redefined the medical use of usable marijuana to include these other forms, and rewrote different aspects of it and applied it retroactively as one of the factors of why, their failure to be able to protect individuals from arrest. Okay? See what I'm saying?
They applied it retroactively?
Never happens.
Oh.
Just for the brownies and things like that. And really for some probable cause.
Oh.
Just in terms of...
the concentrates bill.
Yes, exactly. And but it had an impact, and it was curative. It was an acknowledgement of failed implementation. There's no other way to say it. Otherwise, they used the word curative. Yes. This is intended.
Well, look at look what they did to people for years by way of investigating them or stumbling across them in roadside police encounters and fully prosecuting people with no criminal intent just for their medicine, just for their concentrates. They did it on purpose. You unearthed those emails where they laid it out. These guys, the Prosecuting Attorneys Association of Michigan. Yes, Jeff. The Prosecuting Attorneys Association of Michigan, all the Michigan State Police, the heads.
Think about this.
They planned it out and executed it. It's criminal, Michael. Tell me it's not.
It's totally criminal. And what I'm saying, listen, if I was to tell you there's like 5 or 6 gotchas out there in the world that they were getting you, one of them was the premise that you could only have plant material. As if the voters and 3.3 million people in 2008 proclaimed that marijuana had to be smoked as the only method of ingestion. They were running this. This is the shit they came up with. Those morons in the Crothers case enforced this crap, and they beat it down. What are you going to hand a bong to a 6-year-old kid for their epilepsy? I mean, what is going on in the world, right?
Right.
So that is just, but they ran that stuff. They arrested people. They destroyed their lives. They pulled you out of a car. They saw a rapper, an empty, whatever, Max Lorenz. They had whatever, one of those, like, yeah, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Empty, like a smudge. Not even enough. A smudge, I think they call it. Not even enough to test the presence of that, which was associated with whatever, THC, synthetic, whatever it was. But the illegality of it, the torture that went with it, was one of the methods of gotcha. And the legislature heard people screaming. They saw the terrible. They recognized this is insane, and they're not. I mean, they didn't heard it for a long time. They had to do something. And they somehow got tugged on their heart, and they enacted this law. But this is just one of several. In other words, the ramifications when it's exposed, if it truly is, would be to implement a law intended to be retroactive and to cure, because these all of the failures, all these gotchas have failed to protect people. You know what I mean? Like whether it's the dead plant, whether it's the fake enclosed lock facility that turns to a felony, whether it's, selling to a sick patient who you've got a relationship with, even if they're not on your list. I mean, these are fundamental to the program. You know what I mean? Yeah. Getting plants, caregiver to caregiver transfers. I mean, it's fundamental to a caregiver patient program, and the idea that they've utilized it in its
criminalize.
Yeah, to criminalize it is not being heard. Is not being heard. Wet marijuana. Here you go. Here's another one. Wet marijuana. Someone does 12 plants. They are in total compliance. The police are there, and it's locked, it's enclosed, and they leave. They come back 4 days later. The person's taking down 4 plants. They have 8 plants that are locked and enclosed. They're still in compliance. The 4 plants are being trimmed and hung. It's wet. It's not all plant material. There's branches attached to it. They throw it in a bag. They weigh it. You got a 15-pound case. Over
tomorrow morning
we're
doing dead plants.
Over again. Listen, they charge this stuff. They ran this stuff. This is how they ran the tables, okay? And then, by the grace of God, 7-8 years into it, Frank Tulusky, my hero, appears on the scene as an expert in a case in Lansing here in front of Rose. What's her name? By the way, she wrote a book. This judge in Lansing wrote a book. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's great. She wrote like a murder mystery. Just making a plug for it. And she ruled, and it was upheld by the Court of Appeals in a case called People versus Manuel. And the idea that when they say in the law that only dried marijuana is usable, what they meant was it had to be dried, not drying. And you can't arrest people and call this over their weight because it's wet and drying. Or as the other play on the words is, well, it was processed. What the fuck does that mean? It's either dried or it's not. It's not processed. Okay, this is the disconnect. Where did you get that word? Okay, you don't know that processed does not find itself in the law, and that's your choice of words. Are you helping this situation, Mr. Officer? What was it? If you knew what dried was, which you should, right? Have you ever reached your hand into a laundry, or like you're doing your laundry, you dry her, and it comes to the washer, dried versus not, right? I mean, you get that right?
A dry paper bag.
I don't know how you do this. I don't know how you've done this for so long. But you know what makes things worse? You know what makes things worse? My friend Shalene Title, she was the Speakers Bureau Director at LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, when I first started working there in like 2003. Brilliant lawyer. And then she joined the Vicente firm that wrote the legislation in Colorado for the legalization. She's fucking brilliant. Now she's back home in Massachusetts, and she's on the board to put together the marijuana regulations in Massachusetts, and they just legalized on-site consumption in yoga studios and businesses because they don't have fascist pigs on the board like Michigan. Like, that's just one thing. That's like, by comparison, Michael, do you know what happens in the courtrooms in Massachusetts? They don't have to fight like you do. No. Michigan is a corrupt hotbed of money and power and bullshit every day, every step of the way. So, like, why isn't our board recommending on-site consumption for yoga studios? And why? Because we've got a former drug task force leader that really went out and just brought armloads of us in, watched us all in jail, all of us. and a lobbyist on the board. It's an act of war by the Snyder administration. It is an act of war on every patient and every caregiver and anybody with a freaking heart beating in their chest in this state on people. Why can't we have on-site consumption? Why are they still kicking in our doors? Why are they still taking our houses? Why are they still taking our children? Why are you still going to court in the morning for one of these freaking dead plant cases? Why are you fighting about dead plants?
You know, I'm
Still.
concerned about that. Whatever the new program is not going to be satisfactory to the patients as needed out of the gate, pricing-wise, quality-wise.
Hell no.
It's going to be a period of time before they're up and running, approved
It's horrible.
to sell. And the remaining marketplace that's going to be available, other than the existing facilities, should be the caregiver system. And this is the inherent competition that will always compete with the regulated system. It's always going to be fewer hands touching it, fewer regulatory costs and taxing on it. It's
The current medical marijuana program
is a competing market that is going to be really difficult for the existing commercial. When I say commercial, I mean state, super unregulated, costs first before consumer thoughts second. You want to pull people out of a market of, a traditional patient-driven, patient taste, patient recipient as the main goal to keep your patient, keep your caregiver status of the patient as being the whole program. And then you're like, okay, we got a place here. Come on in and buy some stuff. You know what I mean? And this is what we're selling it for. And they can't get it anywhere else for less. Can you imagine? You know what I mean? And first of all, who said there's not enough marijuana in Michigan? Right? And if there's not enough marijuana in Michigan, let's give out licenses for 1,500 plants. What's that going to do? What's that going to do? Right? You're like, if there was or what I'm saying is,
I like
there's
that.
something's going to be done. If it's not law, that's my concern. There might need to be not enough marijuana before a 1,500 plant in 1,000
can really pay off.
Can pay off. Okay, so I know. So you know what I mean? Those two markets are going to compete with each other as we go forward, and I don't know that the carnage is over.
It'd be good if legalization
Okay.
passes to
Fair
relieve
enough.
that pressure.
Which is why this message
Thank
is
you,
more
Michael.
important than ever. It's more important than ever because and the only way to stop it, I really believe this, is you've got to put the head honcho in power there of this. If this police state, the police, because that's what's.
We live in a police state.
We do.
Yes.
We do. We live in a presumptively
They're kicking
valid.
in our doors and
Yes.
taking our kids and our stuff still. After you register with the state and think they're going to protect you.
Yeah.
We live in a police state.
I'm
Get
not-
pulled over. Go ahead and get pulled over.
Yeah.
You have that happen to you lately?
I don't think
a
any
shame,
one
yeah.
person can solve any problem. I just want to say, I'm one of these people that
Yeah.
believes in anybody. You know what I mean? It's not my thing, and I'm certainly not a politician, but I'm just going to tell you, like, the entire shit show that we're talking about right now, I blame on Bill Schuette alone. Because he could have taken care of this as a true politician
Yes.
would and
As a
recognized.
leader.
Yes, as a leader and provided some guidance. The no education that I would give an olive branch to the police because they weren't. It's
They were
his
sent
fault.
out to get us.
It's his fault.
They were sent out to do sweeps, to get cases, to put them up through the courts, to change and remove the protections provided in the act. And then you've been in the courts fighting to get them back.
He went on
Is
a
that a fair statement?
He went on a propaganda campaign clearing the smoke or whatever that was.
Yes.
Just to
He taught people how to continue to use the Controlled Substance Act on us. That's what the education is that they've got.
And it was misinformation.
sue 'em.
And it was what it was.
You gotta sue 'em.
It was poorly. In a way, it just shows his ignorance because you lose to the truth. In the end, the truth will always come out. And for him not to see in the end that this is going to continue to grow and that his nonsense of campaigning under the reefer madness crap is still going to be bought these days when people all across the state are genuinely
Does
getting
he
relief
use
for
reefer
it.
madness technique?
Yes, driving and crime increase, whatever he can come up with. It's just nonsense.
We saw the
Listen,
study out of Colorado
let me
that there's less teen use with years of recreational, legal laws there out of Colorado. They can't spin it any other way. That's important. We don't want kids to be using marijuana. We want regulations. We want the cops to help us. Please.
One of the most important things that our government
Stop
should
being
be
dicks.
responsible for, if I could say this, is the general public health of its
Yes.
citizens, okay?
Yeah.
The two issues that are
And
on the ballot
safety.
and most important right now